Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Roundup, and this week is Retro World Expo in Hartford, Connecticut, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I have a whole bunch of announcements about that. First, I'm going to start by asking a weird favor. If you're going to the expo and you have older camcorders, specifically DVD or 1080i or anything in between, could you please bring it and maybe I could just shoot a very quick 30-second footage with it for use in an upcoming video that I'm making? I specifically need just one DVD camcorder. I'll buy a blank DVD off you and just take 30 seconds of footage, finalize the DVD. But I also want digital camcorders specifically that could do 480p, 720p, or 1080i. Not all on the same one. Like, I'm hoping multiple people show up with each. And anything, mostly like dedicated handheld camcorders. But if you have anything weird too, like I remember I had something like sharper image stuff that looked really neat, and then eventually they would go on sale in a bargain bin. You get them for $10, like those little digital recorders you stick in your pocket. Anything weird like that, it would be really awesome if we could just shoot a quick thing of footage, and then I'll copy it to my laptop there and go from there. So now on to the actual stuff, not just stupid favors I'm asking. There are going to be a ton of awesome people and things on the RetroRGB booth. This is going to be the most packed booth we've ever had, and we're going to have tons of stuff for sale. Like Steve from RetroTech is bringing a bunch of monitors, including TVs that were refurbished and RGB modded, some PVM, a bunch of very cool stuff. Check out his social media. He's already been showing that off. Tito from Macho Nacho Productions is also bringing stuff for sale there, some of the projects that he's worked on. We have Ariel Aces from Artistic Pixels bringing RetroRGB merch for the first time, as well as a bunch of other awesome stuff that he's been selling. And of course, we have the M3 Mister from Koala Koa that's going to be on the booth. It's going to be a really big deal. And lastly, while I will be at the booth for all 3 days, I'm also doing a panel 5 p.m. on Saturday. And I have a few ideas of what I want to do, but I also have some special stuff I'm going to try to make happen. So stick around. At best, it's going to be a fun and unique experience. At worst, I'll screw it up, fumble my words. You all could laugh at me, and we'll end up doing another fun Q&A section like we always do. But we'll see how that goes. But anyway, enough rambling. I'm just super excited to see you all at Retro World this weekend. But let's jump in and see what's been going on in the past week. First up, Marcus has just released a new firmware for the OSSC Pro, and there's some additions and bug fixes, but in my opinion, the biggest addition is support for Lumacode, which the original OSSC recently got. And if you'd like a quick refresher course, the Retro channel did a couple of great videos on it so far. I believe Veronica's working on some videos on it, and it's essentially a way to get true digital output from consoles like the NES and Atari and ColecoVision that don't require cutting. And in the NES, it doesn't even require removing the PPU. So this is essentially has potential to be the best mod for the NES, and you just need some kind of external device. And if you're using the OSSC, you could use that to scale it digitally, or you could use a digital to analog converter to get RGB out of it. And with the OSSC Pro, you could do both at the same time if you have the analog output module as well. So I think it's really cool to see support for Lumacode. I can't wait to try this stuff out myself and see if I could run some lag tests and some comparison shots between other mods, but very cool. And it's not at all surprising that Marcus has continued to support and upgrade these things, because the OSSC and Pro are both amazing products, and interested to see what comes next. Next up is a firmware update for the Memcard Pro GC, the Memcard Pro for the GameCube. And while it's kind of a small firmware update, I think it adds a feature that I personally would find very important. And it allows you to set a default memory card each time it boots, as well as having an existing card act as a template for any new cards you create. So I think anybody who uses the Memcard Pro as a general device just because they know it's better than any of the other third-party solutions out there, maybe that's not too big of a deal. But anybody that's really dug in and tried to set up their profiles and try to get everything flowing nicely, I think this is a very big time savings for you. So let me know what you think in the comments. I think directly from 8-Bit Mods still has some pre-orders open. I think the rest are filled for the other stores. But if you don't have one yet, we'll let you know when they come back in stock. And this is just really all of the Memcard Pros are things I would strongly recommend for people who need anything other than just a basic memory card. And, if you need more than one, or if you need a reliable one, or if you don't have an original, this is the one to buy. And if you want more info on how it works, Tito from Macho Nacho Productions did a pretty awesome video showcasing it. So check that out if you want more info. Next, there's a new homebrew Ethernet adapter available for the GameCube called the GCNet, and it works very similar to the ETH to GC, except it slides into the front memory card slot as opposed to on the bottom. If you want a ton of details as to what the ETH to GC is, please check out the video from Tito from Macho Nacho Productions. I went through it before, and I don't want to waste your time by going through the whole thing again, but I do just want to make it clear that this is a homebrew adapter that requires Swiss and some kind of backup booting to run. While Swiss is perfectly compatible with disks, and I strongly recommend most people use it in most cases, whether they're using disks or backups anyway, to use this, you're going to need backups, not the disks themselves. Obviously, you'd also need a way to boot your backups to get into Swiss, and this will not be compatible with RetroNAS. So this is really for people that want to do Mario Kart multiplayer with a backup solution. Now, I'm not putting down this project. I think it's absolutely awesome. And at $40 for this, I think it's a really cool solution. And people might want this one over the rest because they're easy plug and play in the front. So you might be able to have your Mario Kart LAN party with this. I just wanted to make sure to set everybody's expectations, because the first thing I saw when I saw a homebrew inexpensive Ethernet adapter for the GameCube was, oh, cool, RetroNAS. But that's not available, at least with this current chipset and this iteration of it. If you wanted to utilize all of that stuff, you could try to pick up an original broadband adapter, which of course I put an affiliate link in the post because that's how I pay the bills, but they're very expensive. And unless you had specific reasons to use that, I would actually recommend the cheaper homebrew versions. So for more info, check out Tito's video. But while I cautioned everybody as to what to expect, I'm a huge fan of both of these. I think they both absolutely have a purpose, and please check out the post and the main page if you're interested on that. Next up, the developer NeoSquid just posted a new software for the Sega Saturn called Calypso, which allows you to control the Saturn's onboard audio chip. Not the CD-based audio, but the chips on the Saturn themselves that can generate audio. And if you end up using it with a keyboard connected, you could program it to basically write music through it. Hopefully Remute has already heard about this, and maybe that'll be his next album, but I think this is really awesome for any chiptunes musician or anybody who's trying to create any kind of Saturn homebrew, because this could make it easier to do anything from music to sound effects and whatever else. So if you're somebody who's into this stuff, whether you're a developer, a musician, or just a nerd like myself that wants to learn more about how these things work, what the sound chips were on the Saturn, and how they differ from all of that, I strongly recommend checking out Dan's post. He goes into detail on everything, and I just really love to see stuff like this, because this one kind of benefits everybody, even if you don't know it. Because if you have a Saturn and a way to boot some kind of homebrew, then you're probably going to be able to take advantage of this, whether you know it or not. I'm sure somebody will make some awesome, even if it's just a demo scene type of thing, and now you'd be able to experience this thing in action. So if you're a dev, definitely take a look. And like I said, if you're just a nerd like me, it's still a great post, and I recommend checking it out. I just released another home movie via RetroTINK video focusing on 480i direct capturing, and I learned a lot about HDMI capture cards and their lack of ability to capture 480i. So please stick with me during this section, even if you don't care about home movies, because it will affect gamers as well. I promise I'll try to get to that point as quickly as possible. But the premise of this video is, just like the last one, you could use your RetroTINKs in order to back up your home movies, and especially magnetic tape media, because their built-in time-based correction keeps all of that in sync and reduces the juddery, weird, shaky video that you get without a time-based corrector. And by using the tinks in their profiles that I created last time, you get HD or 4K versions of that with each field properly deinterlaced to its own frame, very good scaling, and you don't have any post-processing. You just hit record on your computer, and then when you're done, that's it. You're able to share the file. However, there are plenty of scenarios in which you might want at least a few clips archived in their original format, either to use the tools available today to do a very good job scaling and deinterlacing, or to hold on to them for when AI scaling ever gets better for old analog media. And that's the main part of what this video is about, and I do think anybody that cares even a little bit about that should give it a watch. And the skills that you'll learn in this video apply to quite a lot of different things. And also the TINKs time-based correction and comb filters still work when passing through 480i. And essentially it's, why instead of buying a multi-$100 time-based corrector, you could use your TINK instead. But in doing this, I learned that most HDMI capture cards force some kind of deinterlacing for 480i signals. So most are compatible with 480i, but you get them forced deinterlaced, which is very bad for any kind of interlaced formats, whether it's video games, home movies, whatever it might be. So in this video, I also teach you how to use any RetroTINK, including the 2X, which don't use that for magnetic tape media, but for this, it would be fine. You take that and the 240p test suite, set the test suite to 480i and run through the tests that I show you, and you could prove without a doubt if your capture card is actually recording in a 480i format or if it's deinterlacing, dropping fields, whatever else. And I think that's really important because while in most cases, just like the home movies, you're probably going to want to pump your 480i video games through the TINK and have it deinterlace and scale. But there are many reasons why to keep it in original 480i, including just space on your hard drive. You could have a fairly small file compared to like a 4K scaled file if you want to do that. And then, you could deinterlace it any way you want later on. So there's always the potential for better quality, but I just think while it's still very niche, something like being able to find a capture card that's compatible with 480i is important. And in fact, I already got a bunch of comments from people who made other suggestions on what cards might be available. So I hope this spirals into a full page on the Console Mods wiki about 480i compatible capture cards. Maybe we can get people like the Stream Professor, Epos Vox to help and run the same tests and stuff like that. But while most of us will never need direct 480i capture, just like most of us will never need direct 240p capture, like all the research I did for the DataPath Vision cards, it is something people need. And it might even be something that people use along with projects like Doomsday. So definitely check this video out. I know it's long, and I just think that if you have a few moments to run the 240p test suite through your capture card and see if it truly does capture 480i, maybe we could stumble across one of those cheap $20, $30 capture cards that does it at 420 or 422, not 420. So it wouldn't be great for some video games, but it would be perfect for 480i. So please let me know if you have a chance to do it. One other very quick thing, links always disappear in the YouTube comments. I do not delete them, and they don't even show up in my held for review bin. So if you find a capture card, please spell it out. Like AverMedia Live Gamer 4K confirmed with your exact same methods works with 480i. Live Gamer 4K doesn't, but somebody said that there might be a firmware out there that does. So I'll look into that soon. But if you could help at all, please let me know, because I do think this one's going to be a bit more important than I originally thought. Now it's time for this week's Mr. Updates, care of Lou from Lou's Retro Source. As usual, I'm going to skim through these and just add my thoughts where I feel like it, but if you want visual examples and a lot more details, please check out Lou's video. First up, and I can't believe I'm actually saying this out loud, GitHub user Slammy has just started work on a Philips CDI core. That's right. The greatest multimedia compact disc entertainment system ever made is now having the beginnings of a CDI core. So games aren't bootable yet. It's all just experimental, but it looks like some pretty good progress was made. And I really, really hope that means someday I'll be able to play Thunder in Paradise on my Mister, but not using the DOS core, using the far superior CDI version. So very, very, very excited. I mean, I like to tease the CDI, but I do think archiving this stuff is really important, and I do think there's a bunch of experiences, especially Thunder in Paradise, that to this day, I still think that game is the best FMV 90s experience that does hold up. You need to understand you're playing a 90s FMV game, but as long as you're okay with that, I think that's been my favorite way to experience it. except for that whole boat chase thing in the beginning. I wish somebody would just delete that part out. But honestly, it's very cool, and thank you so much to Slammy for starting this out. Next up, Wizzo is now selling a Tap2 bundle with an updated NFC reader and some trading cards on his Etsy shop. All of Wizzo stuff has been awesome, so definitely check that out if you're interested in the project. It's open source. You could make your own. If you want to try to save some cash, you could try to just get the parts. But if you want a really nice assembled one, definitely check that out. Next, Pierco gave an update on the progress for the Pandora's Palace core. He's making some modifications with better chip implementations, specifically the Konami 504 chip. It's still only in the simulation stage, but it's promising. Next up, Amiga CD32 games are now much more easily playable on the Mister thanks to the Amiga Vision project. The latest version now supports booting CD32 disk images directly from the launcher. So Lou goes into detail about that if you're interested in how this is able to work and why the Amiga CD32 is essentially a consoleized Amiga 1200 computer, but really, I think if you already know what this is, you're already excited because it just makes it much easier to access this stuff. But if you're curious, check out Lou's video for more details. Next, Ken from the What's Ken Making YouTube channel created a portable Mister using the QM Tech board with the built-in SD RAM. This is not going to be something for sale. This is going to be a do-it-yourself project that you'd be able to build your own. But I just see so much promise in this. And more tests have been coming back from the QM Tech board. And so far, it's been very good. It runs a little hotter than the original DE10, but I don't think anybody's found a reason to worry about that. So please keep punching away at testing, all of you awesome people who have been doing it, but it's looking like a really awesome option. And the fact that Ken was making a way for people to build their own, I think is really, really cool. And because of the cheaper cost of the QM Tech board, that means it could potentially be a solution that is about the same cost as the Analog Pocket. I still love the Pocket. I'm just saying I'm also a massive fan of the Mister project. So having a portable version of it, I think, would be a pretty cool thing. So we'll update everybody once everything's posted and you can try to make your own, but this is pretty cool. Next up, Hotego cores have now passed the 1000 MRA milestone. There's currently 1009 MRA files for arcade games, which are basically unique arcade games and some of their other hacks, revisions, homebrews, whatever else. So that's insane. That is a lot of work. That is a lot of arcade games that are now in FPGA emulation that I just am so happy to see. So thanks so much to Hotego and the team. And of course, thanks to everybody who supports Hotego on Patreon, because that's how this stuff is able to be done. Next, Irken Labs has their JAMA expander back in stock, which is essentially a Mr. Jamifier, like some of the other ones that have been out there. I have not personally used it, but I have used other stuff from Irken Labs, and it's been very high quality. And this one supports 24-bit color, dual SD RAM, and a few other features like CRT protection. So you might want to check that out if you have an arcade machine and want to integrate your Mister into it. There's also, of course, the Mr. Cade, which has always been great, and Ivory from Retro Castle Solutions, which have also been awesome, and I've been testing both of those since their release. Next, core developer Reiki has showed up some simulation screenshots for Konami's Salamander arcade game, and it looks pretty good, but there might be a problem with the gamma, so he's unsure how it would look on Mister. Next up, Taki has posted about finding a 4x3 AM OLED screen that would be used on the flagship consoleized Mister, and showed some more teasers of that stuff. Next, the Super Attract mode has now added the ability to play retro video game commercials. So the Super Attract mode is a very awesome way to have random games load up as your Mister is just kind of sitting there, and you can just walk up to it and start playing if you want to, or let it cycle through to the next. And now their ability to have retro video game commercials cycled through as well has been added. Sometimes it glitches out. It's a bit much for the Mister's processor to handle even smaller files, but I just think stuff like that is so cool. And if you have the Super Attract mode, or if you were thinking about it, now's the time to check it out. Next, Hotego finally fixed a bug that locked up the Neo Geo Pocket color core at the second logo screen. Games seem functional now, but there's still some graphics work to do, but Hotego thinks the new issue shouldn't be as hard to handle as the previous lockup issue. So that's cool. Neo Geo Pocket color games might be playable soon. And lastly, the CoinOp Collection team has released a beta for the Toa Plan shooter Twin Cobra. This is still a beta, so you need to be a Patreon supporter to have access to it. But just like all of the other cores from the CoinOp Collection and all of these other amazing devs, once it's out of beta and it's more stable, everybody will have access to it and it'll be freely available. And it looks like a top-down vertical shooter, which I really enjoy playing those. So if you're into that stuff, and definitely check it out, and we'll let everybody know when it's available for public download as well. So that's it for this week. For this week's Mr. Updates. As usual, thanks so much to Lou for going through all this. There's no possible way I could keep up with it without him, so please consider supporting Lou on Patreon if you have the ability to. Next up, the developer Fixel is now refunding everybody who placed any pre-order through his website, and will eventually be selling this stuff, but after they're in stock, and will not be doing any more pre-orders. So before I get into the details, I want to repeat myself. Everybody's getting a refund. It will automatically be refunded. You won't have to reach out at all, and give them a little bit of time, because most or a lot of refunds have already come through, but you'll need another couple of days, maybe a week or so, to finish doing the refunds. Everybody's getting their money back. So I'll walk through a little bit about what happened based on conversations I've had with him over the years. I haven't talked to him in a couple of months, but also based on an email that he sent through. And I know this is frustrating for people, but you're getting your money back, so hold on for a second. First, with all of these projects, everything that could possibly have gone wrong that wasn't Fixel's fault went wrong. And there are things that are very common to have happen. It is not common for all of the things to happen every time a new run of production is made. That is absolutely not common, but everything that did happen is not special. And all of my friends who make stuff run into it at some point. This is just one of the rare, if not the only time I've ever seen everything happen all at once. So we're 2 years almost delayed for some of this stuff. And a lot of it just was not at all Fixel's fault. It was the manufacturing process. It was manufacturers disappearing, which is unfortunately happening now. It's kind of a whole other story. That's none of our fault, at least. And on top of that, there were some health issues, some family issues. He kept trying to jump back in. And then he recently found himself, every time somebody canceled their order, he had a lot of stuff planned. So he would have to go find that order, find the box that the stuff was in, take the box out. And he realized now he was spending all of this time doing individual refunds rather than work on getting things out. So he just pulled the plug and said, let me just refund everybody. Let me get the stuff back in stock. Let me sell only the stock that I have. And hopefully he'll reconsider going back to somebody like Stone Age Gamer, and who would do exactly that. The stock is here. It's in our office. It's verified. There's exactly 263. So that's how many we're going to put up for sale. Hopefully he'll kind of go about doing it that way. And that way none of us have to worry anymore. He also made a comment that a lot of people took the wrong way and got pretty nasty about. And I want to make sure I'm very, very clear about this. And I hope that you would help correct the misinformation out there. By the way, it's completely okay if you're really pissed that he's had your money for a couple years and you never got your thing. I get that. But you're getting your money back. People have already gotten your money back. Just lay off the chargebacks from now on. Up until the time this email was sent, anytime somebody did a chargeback because they couldn't get a hold of him, he just accepted it and refunded people, no problem. No complaints, nothing, just he gets it. People are upset. He mostly wasn't his fault, but doesn't matter. People want their money. That's fine. But from this point on, after all of the announcements, after he's already started refunding everybody and is planning to immediately, he's not going to be accepting any more chargebacks because he loses money for that. You get a hit on your accounts with that. And I think that's fair as long as you get your money back. If a month or two goes by and you don't, fine, charge back. That's on him, not on you. But for the next couple of weeks, just take a deep breath because he's trying to get through all of it. Now, the misinterpretation of that was, he's threatening people with it. No, that's a very fair thing to ask, as long as he refunds your money. So, if he's had your cash for this long, give him another week. If you're really scared about, hey, I only have 3 days left to have a charge back, maybe jump on his Discord, see if you can message him there and ask him. But I think that's a very fair ask. I think he knows that people are very upset. I think he knows that, whether it was his fault or not, everybody's perceiving it as he screwed up. So I think he's making the efforts to make it right. And it's my strong opinion. You do not have to agree with me at all, but it is my strong opinion that is everybody gets their money back. I would have no problem buying anything from Fixel in the future, as long as it's in stock first. And I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be upset. The only time I get annoyed and I start talking negatively about it is when people take the money and run. And that doesn't happen that often, believe it or not. So I'm okay with all of this. I feel bad that none of us got the stuff that we really wanted. I also had a bunch of stuff that, I was waiting on for a long time to put the ODEs in and the HDMI mods in and stuff like that. But as long as everybody gets their money back, I personally am cool with it. So I just wanted to over-explain to try to clear up anything. And once again, it's totally cool being upset. I don't have any problem with that. Just try to be a little bit reasonable about it, unless you don't get your money for another month. And then, at that point, do what you got to do. A few Sega Genesis devs have recently resurrected a decade-old project to create a SegaCD RAM Cart. And to be clear, this is not for SegaCD save files. There are plenty of projects already available for that, including just using an EverDrive that lets you copy your SegaCD saves back and forth from a cartridge. This is the other kind of RAM cartridge, kind of like what you'd find with a Sega Saturn. This tries to add memory that's accessible by the system while you're playing games. So think of the Sega Saturn 4 meg expansion cart. And they've got it working. They did a reverse engineer and a redesign of it, but they're having a lot of trouble getting it to work with the 32X CD, which could be a really big help for homebrew there. So if you're a Sega Genesis dev and you want to help out the likes of Vic and Chili Willy and a bunch of really other awesome people, I would take a look at this, check out the GitHub, and see if you could do anything to help, because stuff like this could lead to some really neat things. And I talked to Vic about it. I don't want to go into detail at what it could lead to because it doesn't exist yet. It's working, just not working the way that they wanted it to. But this has potential for some really amazing homebrew stuff. So if you're a dev and you have time to take a look at this, please do. And if not, that's cool too. Maybe just spread the word if you have time to. So I put a little bit more details in the post, but most importantly, a link directly to the GitHub if you want more information or if potentially you have the ability to help. Before I go, I just want to remind everybody I will be bringing those D9H bezels for sale at Retro World Expo. If there are any left over afterwards, I'll sell them on eBay or something like that. And I think most people understood what I said last week, but I just want to quickly run through it again because there seemed to be some confusion with some people. These are pressure molded reproductions of the original 4x3 bezel, which is very rare for the Sony BVM 9-inch D9H units. Almost all of them only came with a 16:9 bezel, and the 4x3s are very expensive. So Rourke attempted to make pressure molds that are a copy of the original, and I have pre-production samples I'll be selling off for very cheap compared to what the final version would be, probably half the price of the final version. And they all fit perfectly, but they're all flawed in some way. I showed a picture, in fact, the picture right in the thumbnail, if you look at the one on the right, you could see like the ripples on the right-hand side. So I want people to see these in person. You might get one that fits absolutely perfect that you just go find some paint to match the plastic of your BVM, and there you go. A couple of things of spray paint, you're good to go, and now you have something that looks like a perfect original. Or maybe you'll find one that just has so very few flaws that you'll just put it on your BVM and use it. But either way, I thought it was better for people to see it for themselves. Once again, these are not original. These are pressure mold copies based on an original 4x3 sample. And if these things sell out and people want more, then I'll ask Rourke to double down and make some really high quality samples. He's pretty sure that he has the molding down perfectly, but the color will never match 100%. You'll never get as perfect as paint matching it, especially because paint fades over time. So you might want to bring yours to like a paint shop and have them try to match the paint for you or something. But the fit, finish, and smoothness of it do have potential to be perfect if you want him to go through the trouble to make them. So we'll see how well these things sell. Maybe this is just going to be people use the pre-productions and are happy with it. Maybe this will turn into a bigger thing. I do have one clear one for sale as well. So this is all first come, first serve. If anybody wants one, just show up at the booth. If not, even if I'm not there, everybody else will know. They're $50 each. And once again, these are pre-production samples, so they're not going to be flawless. But I imagine the near perfect ones would be about $100. So if you have a BVM D9H and you're going to be at the Expo, definitely swing by and check these out. And if not, I'll try to throw them up on eBay afterwards. All right, that's it for this week. I'm not sure if because I'm going to be at Retro World for 3 days next week, it's going to be a super short roundup next Wednesday. I'll obviously make a point to write any posts if anything time sensitive pops up, but if not, it might just be a few things here or there, or if any of the other contributors have time to write anything. So, maybe it'll be business as usual, but just expect a light one next week just in case. But I really am so fired up to be seeing everybody and hanging out this weekend. I really love meeting everybody, so just don't hesitate to come over to the booth. We have some amazing people hanging out there, and I just can't wait to meet all of you. So as usual, thanks to everybody who watches, listens, plays nicely in the comments, and especially thank you to everybody who supports in absolutely any way, because it really is you who's keeping all this stuff going. So thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you this weekend. This week's Roundup is brought to you by Neo Paradigm Entertainment, connecting Southeast Asian influencers with opportunities in the West.